In this country, we have never had a Shika or a Gestapo or a Stasi. We have never lived in an Orwellian society. Well, perhaps not, but that was the old Britain. The Britain belonged to us. We are now ideologically an occupied country. Our police an occupying force. For a long time, people have warned that free speech is at risk, that we risk becoming an unfree state. Well, I think it's time we were all honest with ourselves. We are no longer a free country, and we have no longer free speech. The natural outcomes of a state which has become institutionally treacherous. About a month ago, I warned that the British were finally coming to understand that the British state is in fact a serious danger to them. It is hostile to their interests. It prioritises its political dogmas over their hard-won liberties, and that its most famous examples of tyranny were not errors or mistakes from especially excitable individuals, but the natural outcomes of a state which has become institutionally treacherous. No doubt some considered these claims to be overblown. Well, in just the last fortnight, the police have pepper sprayed a 77-year-old woman and a child at a migrant hotel protest. The Home Office has explicitly argued in court that the rights of illegal immigrants come before those of the local British people. The Home Secretary has unveiled plans for even more routes for so-called refugees to enter Britain, and plans to allow them to work legally, incentivising those people still further. And to cap it all off, a well-known comedian was arrested by 5 armed policemen at Heathrow Airport for a light-hearted tweet in opposing trans women in female spaces. Now, free speech is crucial, of course, but it must be understood in a much broader context, which is the existential question of our time. Graham Linehan was arrested for 3 tweets. The police didn't really seem to know why they'd arrested him. All they knew is that he had been mean about one of their favoured political groups. And that can now get you arrested and imprisoned. In Britain, not North Korea. It is worth recalling what happened when a trans activist, Sarah Jane Baker, told a rally to punch a TERF in the effing face. He was arrested but cleared by a judge who said the comments were probably just seeking publicity. Now, for reference, Linehan is a comedy writer. Sarah Jane Baker, on the other hand, was the subject of a life sentence for the attempted murder of a fellow inmate that he attacked when in prison, when he was serving a sentence, indeed, for kidnapping and torturing his stepmother's 19-year-old brother. And the police are a little better now. Their ideological capture is now well beyond any serious dispute. They are indeed a political force. You are literally more likely to be arrested for transgressing their political dogmas than you are for mugging someone, robbing a shop, or burgling someone's home. In 2023, the police made 33 arrests a day for speech crimes. Now, all the while, Keir Starmer just keeps repeating his robotic nasal mantra.
But we've had free speech for a very, very long time here.
He is, of course, lying. We are being humiliated on the world stage. Our allies cannot quite believe the stories they are hearing. Arrests for tweets, arrests for silent prayers, mothers imprisoned for Facebook posts. These are not the behaviour of a free country. The natural outcomes of a state which has become institutionally treacherous. In this year's Global Expression Report in July, Britain was downgraded for the first time from an open country to a less restricted country. Britain, the birthplace of liberty no longer sits at the top table. Third world liberty for an increasingly third world country. The judiciary and the police have been reshaped. They are now institutions of so-called progress, not impartiality. Impartiality is a liberal precept. It's a recognition that in a pluralistic society, it is not the job of the state to settle political questions, and that there are indeed political questions to settle. Implicit here is the notion that your political opponents may have legitimate viewpoints. These ideas have long since faded amongst our own progressive elites, whose authoritarianism and illiberalism are increasingly stark. They are not dealing with competing viewpoints, they are dealing with right and wrong, good and evil. And why tolerate evil? Cast your mind back to the first Mea Forstata case in 2019, a woman who was fired for her belief in biological sex, a woman who rejected trans ideology. Her views, according to the judge, were not worthy of respect in a democratic society. The word democratic here should be understood to mean a society that accords with the judge's political views, rather than any claim about majority consensus or electoral legitimacy. The natural outcomes of a state which has become institutionally treacherous. The police have for a long time functioned as the armed wing of the trans movement. For Britain's police, politics comes before justice. Free speech may be in trouble, terrible trouble, but it's about to get even worse. Not content with the Online Safety Act, a far-reaching tool of censorship that is already causing mayhem, Labour are planning to bring in respect orders, which can preemptively prevent people doing or saying things under threat of imprisonment. Now, this is pre-crime. The state will be able to stop you simply on the belief that you may do something it doesn't like. To be clear, that something does not have to be a criminal offence in itself, but breaching a respect order will indeed be a criminal offence. In the film Minority Report, from which pre-crime takes its name, pre-crime is only deployed for the most serious crimes, murders.
I'm placing you under arrest for the future murder of Sarah Marks.
For the Labour Party, the bar is so low that the action does not even have to be a criminal offence. Now, this is not pre-crime, it is pre-irritation state sanction. And on top of this is Labour's ongoing attempt to pass an Islamophobia law, which will curtail criticism of Islam and expressions of Muslimness, which are by definition one and the same thing. Not content with covering up the ongoing mass rape of our children by predominantly Pakistani gangs, it now wants to muzzle you from criticising their ideology. There are no printable words that would do justice to the treachery of these people. Even the government's top terror advisor, Jonathan Hall, Casey, has now had to step in to warn that such a law would threaten free speech. To conclude, the complainant in the Linehan case is believed to be one Lindsay Watson, a trans woman and former police officer. He lost his job over his harassment of Harry Miller concerning trans ideology. Police officers warned Miller that they needed to check his thinking because of some tweets. Miller took the police to court and in 2020 won his case. The judge in that case said, "The effects of the police turning up at Mr. Miller's place of work because of his political opinions must not be underestimated. To do so would be to undervalue a cardinal democratic freedom. In this country, we have never had a Shika or a Gestapo or a Stasi. We have never lived in an Orwellian society." Well, perhaps not, but that was the old Britain. The Britain belonged to us. We are now, ideologically, an occupied country. Our police an occupying force. For a long time, people have warned that free speech is at risk, that we risk becoming an unfree state. Well, I think it's time we were all honest with ourselves. We are no longer a free country, and we have no longer free speech. The natural outcomes of a state which has become institutionally treacherous.